You go with an Israeli flag today, anywhere in the world, see the reaction you get versus a Palestinian flag. जब आपको गाजा को आपने बिल्कुल prison बना दिया, you will always have a violent reaction to that.
So what do you think are the core issues in this case between the two countries?
Religion का problem ये भी आता है कि the moment you become religion, then you talk about Islam. If you want to talk about, then you should talk about the pluralism in Islam.
Money makes everything a lot better, right? Money makes all your pain feel less painful.
Do you seriously believe that?
America is a great example.
Forget
of
about
that.
America. I'm asking you.
पूरी दुनिया की जो beauty industry है, beauty is only $500 billion.
अब के नॉर्थ कोरियन और कोरियन वॉर हुई थी, थोड़ा वियतनाम भी हुआ था, लेकिन ओवरआर्चिंग है वी वर वेरी पीसफुल पीरियड.
तो ये जो टर्म है सिलेक्टेड गवर्नमेंट की टर्म तकरीबन 3.5 साल और है.
वन चैंपियन का वो ज़माना गया. कोई चैंपियन एक नहीं आएगा. हम सब चैंपियन बने, हम अपनी तकदीर हम चेंज कर सकते हैं.
Who won the India-Pakistan war that just took place? Some sides say that it was India, some say it was Pakistan, some say it was China. Some say that it was America because it brokered the peace deal. But we will discuss in depth who won this war, what the fallout will be, and what to expect. Amin Hashwani is here today. He was the former head of the Pakistan-India Business Council, and he will shed some light on this topic. Stay tuned and check out this episode of Digitales. Amin Hashwani, welcome back.
Thank you.
And this time we're going to talk about something completely different than last time. It's a subject that you've spent a lot of time with. It's a subject that's hot in the news. It's the subject of India and Pakistan. And first I wanted to set the ground. You've actually been involved with the Pakistan-India Business Forum for like 12 years. You've visited India a number of times. You've been involved with the India chapters of YPO. You've spoken at a number of events. You've been to the Indian side of Srinagar. So you understand that place, and we wanted to sort of have this conversation that is slightly different than the way typical media is portraying things out there, right? We want something that's a little bit more in depth, a little bit more meaningful, rather than just very cursory and sort of headline. So let's start with your experience first, right? You were very active during Musharraf's days. Walk me through your experience with India, with that business forum, what you saw at that time leading into sort of 2015 and 16.
Sure. So, look, let's look at India-Pakistan dynamics. I always call it the freak of nature. And let me explain you. Normally, whenever you see conflicts that are festering over decades and generation, the animosity always trickles down to people level, and it becomes a generational issue. You look at the Middle East, Palestinians and Israelis, right? You look at the Balkans, you look at Africa, a lot of these places, you have these conflicts. India, Pakistan, we fought, let's say, 3 wars or 3.5 wars. It's been going on for over 70 years. Yet, whenever Indian and a Pakistani meet, be it in Citibank or at universities or wherever, they always get along very well.
The culture is the same.
So there are cultures, even in the Middle East, I can argue same. But I call this a freak of nature. That at people-to-people level, the chemistry has always gelled. I would go to Delhi and people would not charge me from, things, sir, aap aaye hain ye way, and I would feel literally like a VIP being in India, and I would joke with them. And similarly, people coming from India, we would always host them. Me being in college, my best friend was from India, my daughter's best friend, both of them, Indian. It dawned on me in college, my Angrez friend would say, hey, hang on, aren't you guys supposed to be fighting with each other? What's going on here? So, and then I would look at other conflicts and I would find this very unique. And I find it's been an abject failure of leadership on both sides that we've not been able to capitalize and translate this groundswell of goodwill, novelty value, etc., into something concrete for the rest of the for the entire population, 1.5 billion plus people, and we've not been able to do it. You can reason, blames, excuses, सब कुछ हम कर सकते हैं. The fact remains that we've not been able to do that, right? And अब वो shining India, India आप जो भी कह दें, but if you look at the socio-economic index, it's not very different from Pakistan. आप hunger का देख ले, आप malnutrition देख ले, even literacy levels, इनकी जो IITs है, it's catering to a fraction of a thing. And maybe so you can see that, you have a thing, but it's a 1.5 billion people. You still have a very high percentage.
1/3 below poverty.
Right, below. So they also have the challenges over there. हमारे तो है ही है, and we are quite open about it, right? But वो shining India is not as shining जो आपको social media में दिखता है. When you scratch the surface under the gloss, there are huge challenges out there, and not to mention communal issues which are further accentuating. There was a time we would be look up to India के democratic credentials, जो भी था, it wasn't perfect, but we would still see यार उधर democracy है ये वे. Now you can't do it with a clean heart. The kind of decline, I mean, this is not just an opinion. If you see the index, India is declining on the democracy index as well. And look, I'm not talking as a Pakistani versus Indian. We as Pakistanis, we need to wish India the best. We want to see a prosperous India. If nothing else, for selfish reason. You cannot have a neighbor 10 times your size economically going through a kind of ultra nationalism where the social societal decline ho raha hai. No, we want it to be a vibrant India at peace itself and at peace with us. Similarly, we should be exactly the same for ourselves and for them, and it should be vice versa. ये zero sum game नहीं है, and we should learn from, if you read history, it never works out, throwing stones at others or casting at others. India unfortunately has made this, उन्होंने तो full time पेशा बनाया हुआ है पाकिस्तान bashing, and eventually जब आप कीचड़ फेंकते हैं दूसरे पे, छींटे आप पे भी आते हैं. And मैं हमेशा इजराइल का देता हूँ, right? Israel needs to get rid of the occupation as much as the Palestinians, because if you see Israel, I've been part of track 2 even in the between the Israelis and the Arabs. जब आप एक occupation करते हैं, the hate that you generate for the Palestinians, that hate comes within your own society also. जहर कोई दूसरों के लिए नहीं होता, आपके अंदर भी आता है. So if you see Israeli society, it's become cancerous. उसके divisions हो गए हैं. The fact that a majority of the Israeli society is supporting genocide. आप सोचे तो सही, दुनिया में लोग सब कह रहे हैं, गालियाँ दे रहा है. You go with an Israeli flag today, anywhere in the world, see the reaction you get versus a Palestinian flag, right? So ये कैंसर है. आप ट्राई करते हैं the ultra nationalism, jingoism, eventually ये मैं आप पर हेट करता हूँ, रोज़ आपको गालियाँ देता हूँ, ये देता हूँ, इवेंचुअली वो गालियाँ, दैट नेगेटिव एनर्जी मेरी अंदर आएगी और मेरी फैमिली में भी आएगी, राइट? सो इट्स, यू वुड नॉट इम्यून फॉर इट. वी आर ऑल इंटरकनेक्टेड, एंड ये समझना बहुत ज़रूरी है. इसके लिए सेइंग वी हैव वन अप ऑन दिस थिंग, शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए सही है. इट्स लाइक क्रिकेट मैच है, आप एक में जीत गए, बट व्हेन यू गो आउटसाइड, यू गाइस शुड बी, all fans of India and Pakistan or any country should be very civil and should be celebrating each other. It is an event happening overall, and this is the mindset बहुत ज़रूरी है for Pakistan to take, because up till now I've been actually very proud of Pakistan's stance. Okay, we said we want talk, we want peace, we want discussion, we want dialogue, we don't want conflict, right? And I want going forward also कि this victory में हम ज़्यादा hubris नहीं आए. उधर बहुत hubris चल रहा था, and because of that miscalculation, they suffered whatever they did, the setbacks that they had. We need to continue to be very, very humble in this thing. ठीक है, हमने celebration कर ली, जो भी आपको करना था, but get over it and get on with it. आप अपना घर से ही करें with a lot of humility. एंड बहुत ज़रूरी है ना, हमारा इस्लामिक ट्रेडिशन भी हमेशा यही कहता है कि फ़िरौनियत या ह्यूब्रिस डज नॉट गेट यू वेरी फार.
So then, what is the need for this sudden posturing? अभी एकदम से what happened that this posturing takes place? Look, it's a known fact that there is Indian representation and agents working to destabilize Balochistan. This is a known fact, right? I mean, the military says it out openly, and there's a reason for that. It's sort of our creation, because if we had taken care of the Balochis by providing them with socioeconomic opportunities, by providing them with industry, by providing them with the means to make a living, they may not need the money from the outside, right? Because that's sort of how the outsiders are enticing them. And so if that's happening here on this border, it gives our forces, our military, our leadership a reason to sort of have a negative stance on the neighbor, right? Why, and it's understandable why you want to create disruption in Balochistan. You kind of keep everyone kind of defocused, You've got Afghanistan as another problematic area where India is now sending its ministers and having talks with the Taliban, right? Iran border Iran's got its own set of challenges.
Sure.
Why wouldn't Pakistan try to sort of take everyone and be like, guys, let's all work together? Because we're one of the only countries whose entire surroundings are people we cannot drive in and out of freely, right? We have some sort of a weird relationship with the exception of the China border up top. Why wouldn't Pakistan take sort of that bigger stance and say, you know what, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Why don't we all come to the table and let's have a chat?
Right. So SARC was exactly that effort. Now, why SARC faltered, why it failed?
And SARC is the South Asian,
South Asian,
for regional cooperation.
Regional cooperation.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So look, SARC was this event. I was part of. I used to go to the conferences. There was genuine thing. जब भी आपको रीजनल इंटीग्रेशन, देयर आर ओवर अ डजन रीजनल इंटीग्रेशंस थी, राइट, रीजनल्स थी. ओनस इज ऑलवेज ऑन द बिगर इकोनॉमी, द बिगर पावर,
राइट,
टू लुक आउट. देखिए कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स, बॉर्डर्स जहाँ होंगे वहाँ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट डिफरेंसेस होंगे. यूएस कनाडा के भी इश्यूज आते हैं, मैक्सिको अमेरिका के भी आएंगे. जंग नहीं हो रही, लेकिन यू हैव टू मैनेज दोज.
European Union is fairly
European
easy.
Union, right? So European Union, it was France and Germany जिन्होंने champion किया था. They were the two large economies, and then they took all the smaller economies along. America, North American treaty हुई थी, वहाँ भी it was America that took Canada and Mexico along with it, right? So it's always the bigger power. SARC में India being the biggest power had an obligation to take everyone along. And that means addressing the insecurities of the smaller nations. All right? ये बहुत ज़रूरी है. And in my opinion, this is not a biased opinion, it's a very objective opinion. India failed to play that role. And I can tell you from first-hand experience. And let me explain you. It's not India and Pakistan. आप India and बांग्लादेश से आप बात करें, not on politics, just trade में. You speak to Nepalis, what do they think about it, right? You speak to any of these neighboring countries on India, they don't have very complimentary words to say the way they have been dealt with a very large power, a very large economy. Nepal को उन लोग पूरा blockade कर देते, it's landlocked, right? It's strong arm tactic. You need to be magnanimous. With South America में Brazil was very magnanimous to take the other economies together. So SARC did not work out, and then violence etc happened, and then that is history. देखिए statecraft is not statecraft is a very cold calculated thing. Every country on this planet does that. Let's be very clear, okay? And whenever there are conflicts or whenever there are state interests, whenever you're competing, हमेशा उनके बैकयार्ड में जो भी cracks होंगे वो आपका ओपोनेंट ट्राई करता है टू एक्सप्लॉइट दैट, राइट? तो बलूचिस्तान इंडिजिनस इज़ नॉट एन इंडियन प्रॉब्लम. इट्स ये हमारी अपनी शॉर्ट कमिंग्स है, हमारी हमारी फॉल्ट्स है. तो वहाँ एक इशू फेस्टर हुआ है, राइट? तो वहाँ आउटसाइड फोर्सेस आके उनको एक्सप्लॉइट करती है. सिमिलरली इंडिया के बैकयार्ड में इश्यूज है, इनजस्टिस है, राइट्स आर नॉट बिन गिवन. So outside powers would exploit that. Now it doesn't mean कि भाई आप जाके terrorist कर रहे हैं and you don't, you see whenever ये बहुत ज़रूरी है to understand. And पाकिस्तान पे होकर आपने ये terror incident, no. देखिए whenever ये human history की होती है, whenever जब भी आप लोगों के rights को आप suppress करते हैं, you will always have some elements that be violent reaction आपका आएगा. So Israel में है, PLO था, इट वॉज अ वायलेंट थिंग, देन उसको पॉलिटिकली इंगेज करके उसको मेन स्ट्रीम किया, सब कुछ किया, रिकग्निशन भी की इसराइल के साथ. बट जब आप सप्रेशन, आप पीस डील नहीं करते हैं, हमास के मच लेटर ऑन, राइट, जब आपको गाजा को आपने बिल्कुल प्रिजन बना दिया, सो यू विल ऑलवेज हैव अ वायलेंट रिएक्शन to that. Everybody is not peace loving, everybody is not pacifist. People react different way. You and I will react very differently to a given situation. That is how, and then you pass judgment वो terrorist वो ये है. Yes, they might be committing terrorism, but if you do not go and address the core issues, it will keep on coming up. Israel की initial stage में two of the Israeli prime ministers were declared terrorist by the British. उन पे head money भी था, right? So, you know, to pass judgment by sitting some high altar कि वो सही है, वो गलत है, and हम बड़े high principle है, that's all nonsense.
So what do you think are the core issues in this case between the two countries?
Yeah, so look.
And by the way, what's one thing that really pops out to me is all of these problems were British created when the empire kind of collapsed and had to retreat. You know, and they sort of handed back the people their lands that they had taken over for hundreds of years. They left a mess, right? Whether you talk about Africa, whether you talk about Israel-Palestine, fine, Israel-Palestine might have
the Middle East,
much longer history. The
entire whole of the Middle East.
So this is all a creation of the remnants of the
Lebanon, Syria, Kuwait, Iraq,
everything.
ये इन्होंने बैठ के क्या?
Because actually it served a purpose, right? अगर आपने निकलना ही है, destabilize करके निकलेंगे, वापस में लड़ते रहें. क्योंकि उन्होंने तो 400 साल 300 साल जो भी they ran the area and colonized it, they've taken and extracted the value out of it.
Correct.
Right, and most importantly, they've extracted the culture out of it, and that's the one thing that really stands out for me. So, for example, if you move through, let's say the GCC, Arabic is not just a language. It is a culture of that region, right? You, let's say, are in Spain. Spanish is not just a language, it's a culture. Japanese, Chinese, Mandarin, wherever you go. But in our region, our language is not our culture because we are torn between English and our local language. English is perceived to be premium, higher end. Local language is supposed to be down market. The same thing is in India. Sure. You know, we've lost a bit of an identity, right? And it's hard to create an identity when you're fragmented by different languages within one nation, especially Pakistan, right? And even within India, when you've got so many religions and languages.
And languages.
So we've got a similar problem. Then with a similar problem, what is the core issue?
So, okay, so I think there's a lot to unpack with you saying. So one is, Pakistan का मैं हमेशा कहता हूँ, let's start with Pakistan. पाकिस्तान का मैं हमेशा कहता हूँ कि हमारा core issue is we have failed last 70 years to create a cohesive national identity.
100% agree.
ठीक है ना? उसको आप लैंग्वेज में ट्रांसलेट कर रहे हैं या जो भी आप करें.
हमने तो लैंग्वेज नहीं ट्राई की, वी ट्राइड विद रिलीजन.
राइट. सो रिलीजन जो है, इफ यू क्रिएट रिलीजन एज अ नेशनल आइडेंटिटी, यू सी रिलीजन इज थियोलॉजी. नाउ ईदर यू क्रिएटिंग ए theology state or you're creating a democratic state, right? There is a difference between Israel. Similar problem आता है. So
but history has shown that religious based societies do not last in the long run.
So my take on this is as follows. First of all, my interpretation was कि Pakistan was created not कि आप इस्लाम का झंडा फैलाएं. It was because in a greater India, a minority community that happened to be Muslims, the majority that happened to be Hindus, failed to give guarantees for their rights. Okay? And out of fear of a majoritarianism, Pakistan became an option that we ultimately say we want to separate. Okay, you remember the cabinet mission plan आया था. Jinnah was kind of accepted. He came up with the there were other formulas on the table. It was Nehru who was adamant, no, we don't want. So hence Jinnah said, fine, then we go for Pakistan. Right? So ये बहुत ज़रूरी है to understand कि Jinnah का version was a pluralistic country where rights of all minorities, everyone, इसके लिए पाकिस्तान के झंडे में भी हमारा देखिए symbolically, it is there. So it wasn't a theological state to begin with.
Right.
Now, मैं कहता हूँ ठीक है, religion is very much part of a culture, part of our identity, and it should be that way. Religion का problem ये भी आता है कि the moment you become religion, then you talk about Islam. If you want to talk about, then you should talk about the pluralism in Islam. Talk about ethics. You talk about morality. You talk about being compassionate to each other, right? Islam is not a ceremony. So अगर आप एक आइडेंटिटी आप लेके एक ठप्पा लगा के आप रख रहे हैं एंड उसको आप उसकी जो एसेंस है एज अ स्टेट एज अ सोसाइटी आप फॉलो नहीं कर रहे हैं, then that becomes very problematic and then religion becomes divisive. भाई जब आप कहते हैं इस्लाम, just Islam without its ethics and its values, then किसका इस्लाम की आप बात करें पाकिस्तान में? शिया इस्लाम, सुन्नी इस्लाम, बरेलवी इस्लाम, किसकी आप बात कर रहे हैं, right? So when you talk about Islam, and if you want to make that, it should be the essence of Islam that should be part of our identity individually and collectively.
But how do you impose that essence and sort of manage it?
You can never impose it.
Exactly.
You can't impose. So hence, therefore I say कि Islamic Republic of Pakistan without the essence of Islam becomes problematic.
But
Right? Because
pulled it
identity can't be in a vacuum. Identity can't be in just theory.
But they pulled it off in Saudi. Saudi is very Islamic with its, I mean, up until recently, from the siege of Makkah, right? The hardliner Islamic values that came into place. And obviously that was there because of the Afghan-Russia war, and they needed that Islamic hardline.
1979.
Exactly. They needed that Islamic brotherhood to push back on the Soviets, right? But that did last for about 40 years.
That's fine, but then it kind of changed as well, right? So you can't say that Saudi Arabia is no longer quote-unquote Islamic. It still is, right? But it's not a theological state, hardcore theological intolerant state. MBS is trying to open it up, make it much more in tune with the world. आपको दुनियादारी करनी है, आप एक global economic system में you're part of it, so we need to be part. You can't आप अपनी 1.5 इंच की मस्जिद बना के आप कहेंगे सब कुछ नहीं. So you need to be part of that thing, right? So this is Pakistan's identity, and if you don't have a cohesive identity, मैं और आप हम लंदन में मिलते हैं, हम दोनों पाकिस्तानी will meet each other because हमारी common identity, we'll have connection even if we do not know each other, right?
But the connection is language more than the religion.
So the connection for me is national identity. आप पाकिस्तानी, मैं भी पाकिस्तानी हूँ, right? मिलते हैं. Now I don't care whether you Shia, Sunni, or you are Punjabi or this thing. You are a Pakistani. यार let's हम Oxford Street पे मिलते हैं.
What is my national identity? What makes me a Pakistani?
So again, national identity.
A passport.
Yeah, no. National identity. It's like we humans have multiple identities. You are a family person, you're a business person.
Right.
When you're with friends, you're different. When you're with your parents, you're different. So we all wear multiple identities.
Right.
National nations also have components of identity that makes it into one cohesive identity. Okay? You can't have Islam as the dominant identity. Islam should be very much part of it. It's embedded. We as Muslims, Islam by this thing is a way of life. It's not just the book, or it's not just, it's you live the faith every day, right? So it is very much part of our identity, but you can't just say, okay, Islamic Republic of Pakistan and nothing else. It's a very diverse, non-Muslims are there, cultural identity hai. All of this make हमारी history है, starting from Mohenjo-daro. That's part of our identity, right? So we have Mughal part of our identity. So we need to take all of that part. We have Taxila, the Gandhara civilization. That's part of identity. If you do not embrace that identity, someone else will hijack it.
But we have not embraced that identity.
So
We've
that
not
is so.
embraced the Indus civilization as a daily part of our rhetoric. We've not
अरे
embraced
भाई, so
Gandhara.
that is exactly problem वो है. It's not Islamic Republic of पाकिस्तान का प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. हमने सिर्फ एक नैरो फोकस करके उसको कर दिया, एंड वी हैव हमारी जो कल्चरल हिस्ट्री आइडेंटिटी
वो तो
है
हमने छोड़ ही दी है.
उसको छोड़ दिया.
Because
So,
I'll give you an example. Recently I was in Athens. We went to the top of the, what is that called? जहाँ पे वो democracy, Acropolis. Right there, and then where the
Pantheon.
exactly where the democracy began, and there's
Right.
a whole history of it, and they're telling us the stories of all of this, and they're connecting Greece as a country to
Yeah,
that, and saying this is how old we are.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I've been to Mohenjo-daro 3 times. No one has ever connected to me. Even the tour guide, कि यार ये this is the foundation and the basis of our country.
Yeah.
Texila chale
Not
jaye.
only of the whole subcontinent,
Of the whole
this is the
subcontinent.
passion of the civilization. There was Mesopotamia, उधर था, Indus इधर था, Egypt आया.
Exactly.
So these were the
In fact, these
early-
guys were older than those guys. I think this was 3 or 4,000 BC. That was a little bit early. I think it was 2000 or something
No,
like that.
Mohenjo-daro dates back to nearly, they say, 4 to 6,000 BC. That means
So
कि
it's-
6,000 साल, 7,000
Correct.
साल.
One of the
पहले
oldest.
earlier civilization, and then it grew into a bigger city. Right?
So वो तो हमने
So
कभी
है.
connect ही नहीं किया.
Exactly. So just on this thing, the Athenians were not Christians.
Yeah, they were not Christians.
The Orthodox Christians तो आज के हैं ना, but the Greeks go back to the Athenian time, okay, and they don't say वो Christian नहीं थे तो हम identity
बल्कि
उसको
वो तो
नहीं
gods
करते.
होते थे उनके sky के अंदर and whatever.
The Zeus and all
Yep.
of these people. So that's part of identity. So identity is one issue. India ka is problematic. India actually had a very pluralistic identity, secular, hardcore secular during Nehru's time. Now all of that is being rewritten. The history is being rewritten, and I think India as a society is regressing. वो reverse gear में जा रहे हैं. हम I still feel हमारे जो भी मसले थे, जो भी faults थे, हम फिर भी, in my judgment, people might disagree, we have progressed
So I
a
wanna
lot from
pause
that
there.
Zia era. We can do another program on this.
But regressing and progressing, I want to make sure the distinction is clear. India is progressing economically,
Right.
but it is regressing on
As
what
a
metric?
society. As a society.
And what would be the metric to judge that?
So let's say you look at, let's say for example, tolerance level. You look at inequality, the treatment of your minorities, right? So on all of these levels, let's say, I mean, आप देख लें, I mean, कोई वो सोशल मीडिया की थी, मैं देख रहा था, I don't know क्या नाम, ज्योति उसका नाम था, उसको जेल में डाल दिया because she had gone to Pakistan and said something good about Pakistan. Some professor अली था, उसको उन्होंने उठा के जेल में डाल दिया, उसके अगेंस्ट केस कर लिया because he passed a remark on this thing which was interpreted as anti-India, right? So it's become a very intolerant society, and this hyper-nationalism जो आपने देखा, जो मीडिया है कि कराची को तबाह कर दिया है, 20% एयरफोर्स को तबाह कर दिया, these are lies, right? आप पूरी सोसाइटी के स्कैफोल्डिंग्स इस पे आप अगर आप खड़ा कर रहे हैं, you're not becoming a very progressive society. And sooner or later, economics in isolation, there will be a fallback. You're looking at socioeconomics. Economics and social society both interact. It doesn't work in isolation.
No, so what if economically a country is prosperous? People don't fall back on religion because they're falling back on money. Money makes everything a lot better, right? Money makes all your pain feel less painful. So
do you seriously believe that?
America is a great example.
Forget
of
about
that.
America. I'm asking you. Do you seriously believe that?
But I look at, I actually look at the US, and yes, the amount of, I mean, they're all funded by debt. I get that. It is a debt-fueled society. But people have access to capital for their basic needs, their day-to-day needs, right? वहाँ पे कोई भूखा नहीं मरेगा, यहाँ पे मरेगा.
You must have read Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, right? So ये जो आप बात करें ना,
Food and
पैसे
shelter.
ये this is at the base thing, right? Hierarchy में top is sense of purpose.
वो तो हमारे लोग तो पहुंच ही नहीं सकते ना, क्योंकि वो बेस में ही फंसे हैं.
No. Okay, so I want to argue against that. First of all, money is very important to make up basic needs. Beyond a certain, there is no correlation that more money you have, you will have happiness and fulfillment in your life. Okay, let's be very clear. अगर मैं रोज़ सुबह को मेरे पे खाने को नहीं है, I'll be very unhappy. But मेरी basic needs, shelter, ये वे अगर meet हो रहा है, and I have a car, something decent है, beyond that, whether I become a millionaire or I get $10 million or $100 million, it has no correlation with my level of happiness and fulfillment. There are other factors that come into play.
So in fact, there's a number for that. I believe that number was around between $90,000 and $100,000.
So
after which
it's
there's
not, so it depends on your purchasing power index.
Right.
But America mein now it's going to close to $200,000. If you have that much, you are set, and then you don't have that correlation. It flattens out after that, right? So वो बहुत ज़रूरी है to understand. पैसा ज़रूरी है, लेकिन it doesn't fulfill everything. So you need these other factors, and that's where society comes into factor, right? Pakistan, despite of all the problems, happiness index में Pakistan is quite high, much higher than India as well. And इसकी एक वजह है, because I always argue Pakistan is one of the most philanthropic countries as a percentage of its GDP in the world, right? Because we have a very strong sense of society. Part of it's primarily due to a religion, the zakat concept, etc. Not only that, हम बहुत divided होंगे, आपस में हम बहस मुबासला भी करते हैं, लेकिन जब भी crisis आती है, you see the groundswell of support that comes in. The charitable Indus Hospital बन रहा है, और जितने बनते हैं, I'm part of Aga Khan Hospital also. We have very, very philanthropic people who support us. Earthquake आता है, सब साथ आ जाते हैं, floods आते हैं, you get so much outpouring of it. It doesn't happen in India. It doesn't happen in even America. Huge philanthropy. वहाँ भी है, होता है. To be fair, they are also very,
but
very.
They get a tax benefit. But they get a tax benefit.
Irrespective. Well, you know what? Other countries also get, but they're not there. America spends about $350 billion annually in philanthropic endeavors. So that is very, very substantial. So you have this sense of, in our society, this cohesiveness is there. वो जरासीम है. And मैं हमेशा quote करता हूँ कि Pakistan was one of the early Asian tigers. 15 साल में when we had nothing. आज हमारे पास सब कुछ है, infrastructure भी है, finance भी है, institutions भी है, yet we had faltered quite badly. And उसकी primarily reason ये थी क्योंकि society 1947 में cohesive थी. And we progressed because organization culture हम companies में कहते हैं, it eats strategy for breakfast, right? तो और culture हमारे अंदर है. आज भी जब floods आते हैं, we do unite. तो जरासीम आज भी है. It's about leadership. It's about creating that society. इकोनॉमिक ऑटोमेटिकली आपका सही हो जाए. जर्मनी का कल्चर वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 के बाद डिस्ट्रॉयड, पर उनका एक वर्क कल्चर था. इट शॉट अप. इट्स द लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी इन यूरोप. जापान तबाह हो गया था, 2 एटम बॉम्ब भी गिर चुके थे. विद इन 30 years इट हैड रिवाइव्ड इटसेल्फ, राइट? तो ये क्या, जापान के पास ना तो ऑयल है ना तो ज़मीन है. ज़मीन भी उस पर साला ज़लज़ला और सुनामी आता है.
वो टॉयज बनाते थे. आई थिंक दे वर नोन एज अ टॉय मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंट्री इन इट्स अर्लियर डेज. नो वन टुक देम सीरियसली राइट आफ्टर द वॉर.
एग्जैक्टली, राइट. नो वन टुक चाइना सीरियसली. कहते हैं कॉपी कैट करते हैं. आज कटिंग एज चाइनीज कल्चर, इट्स अ 4000-year-old सिविलाइजेशन. कन्फ्यूशियस फिलॉसफी उनके अंदर एम्बेडेड है, right?
Taoism is a big part of it.
Yes, Taoism, Confucius, but Confucius sense of society, बहुत ज़रूरी. So this creates, so therefore I'm trying to argue with you here, and I know you didn't mean it a serious comment. Money is not everything. GDP is not everything. Your stock market is not everything. It is your society. मैं आज पाकिस्तान का मैं कहता हूँ, आप 15 प्रॉब्लम उठा ले, बिजली का, पानी का, करप्शन का प्रॉब्लम उठा ले, वायलेंस का उठा ले, इनइक्वालिटी का उठा ले. एट द रूट कॉज आप उसको स्क्रैच करते जाए, इवेंचुअली इट्स अ सोसाइटल प्रॉब्लम. इट्स अ सोसाइटल. आप सोसाइटी आप सुधार दें, सब कुछ सही होना शुरू हो जाए.
सोसाइटल प्रॉब्लम कैनॉट नॉट बी सॉल्व थ्रू अकाउंटेबिलिटी.
सो
क्योंकि अगर इफ आई हैव अ रूल ऑफ लॉ that drives accountability, and then when the society knows कि यार मैं फेरा फेरी करूँगा, आगे पीछे करूँगा.
Agreed. Okay. So I will say, who will do the accountability? अगर आपकी सोसाइटी सही नहीं है, बिगड़ी हुई है, जो अकाउंटेबिलिटी कर रहे हैं, तो you will not be able to. आप institutions बनाते, but if you have PIA थी, we were one of the leading airlines in the world. We are a third rated airline in the world. क्या हुआ यहाँ से? It was a dramatic fall, right? हमने Emirates बनाई, सिंगापुर एयरलाइंस बनाई, और के हमारे नाम से कराची का आया है. They became the leading airline in the world, and we exactly went in the reverse. We need to do some soul searching. What happened? It is a societal issue at the bottom. Corruption is a societal issue. Inequality is a societal issue. Everything. So I'm saying हमें अपनी society को सही करना है. In India Pakistan के context में भी, in my opinion, I want to just get back to that. देखिए, both sides are claiming victory.
Actually, this is the first war that there are four sides claiming victory.
Right.
A war between two countries has
Yeah.
four winners. America claims that it brokered the peace,
Yeah.
claims victory. China claims
Still
victory because it was the quiet one, yet it showed the world that don't mess with me.
लेकिन China never claimed anything.
No, it didn't claim,
It
but
keeps quiet.
but China
and वो कहते हैं let our deeds show.
correct. So China came out victorious without claiming victory.
Correct.
Pakistan claims victory because of the quiet way that they did the attacks, yet they showed restraint and everything. And India claimed victory because, you know what, they went into the Pakistani soil and went after the terrorists who actually went and attacked Pulwama. So for four sides, without China actually saying it out loud, four sides are victorious in a two-country war. That's amazing to me.
First time in history a win-win war.
A win-win, exactly,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah. So look, okay. So on one count, I feel there are two ways of looking at. One is Pakistan won and India lost. And let me explain you first this one. What was India's objective? And allow me to indulge a bit over here. Okay. We are going through a process of deglobalization. Okay. जो रूल बेस्ड ऑर्डर था, देखिए वर्ल्ड वॉर वन के बाद लीग ऑफ नेशन बना, वहाँ पीस एंड सिक्योरिटी वाज द प्राइमरी थिंग. अगेन वर्ल्ड वॉर टू हो गई. Then they said, okay, let's make the United Nations. So usme the mandate expanded more. It was about UNICEF, it's about WHO, all of that. So you said, no, you need to create a whole holistic, integrated global society ताकि इस किस्म का खून खराबा नहीं हो. And hence the Bretton Woods institutions came, and America championed the world rule-based order. Okay, and then subsequently came your WHO. Global supply chain, neoliberalism came in, and globalization came in. Okay, 9/11 happens. Two things happen. एक तो था कि USA, which was the champion of this thing, went into a reactive mode, right? And USA came out with this doctrine that we are the sole superpower. Anyone that's going to compete with us we will view that as a threat. Okay, from a unipolar world, China का rise होना शुरू हो गया था, right? So USA started looking at this, and the crumbling of the ये जो rule based था उधर से शुरू हो गया, right? And then you see USA invading Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, वहाँ ही सारे शुरू हो गए. So rule based order जो था after World War II, this had already started to crumble. Trump is a manifestation of that mindset, because America is seeing China as a threat, number one, and they will throw the rule book out of the window to make sure that China को somehow contain किया जाए, and they'll do anything and everything. So the champions of this rule-based order, जब वही आप misbehavior करना शुरू करें, तो बाकियों के भी आप समझ सकते हैं क्या हाल होंगे, right? So Trump comes in, you look at, so hence now you have this trend of regional hegemony. Okay. Now Israel going into Gaza, genocide कर रहा है. सारी दुनिया की पब्लिक, यूरोप अमेरिका में प्रोटेस्ट हो रहे, वो कहते हैं तुम्हारी ऐसी की तैसी, वील कंटिन्यू, हंगर कर रहे, अनथिंकेबल लाइव स्ट्रीम जेनोसाइड हो रहा है, एंड दे से हेल विद इट. Putin invades Ukraine, he said the hell with you people, right? The fact Trump saying about हम जाके ग्रीनलैंड को हम कब्जा करें, now he doesn't mean seriously कि पैनामा कनाल एंड ग्रीनलैंड को कब्जा करें, but it's a message you're sending, the hell with the rule based order. बदमाशी है, whoever is the strong will do it. हमारे यहाँ भी वो कहते हैं ना, गंगा बह रही है, हम सब नहा लें उसके अंदर. So Modi's doctrine was always about Hindutva, हिंदुत्व था, उसके आप पार्लियामेंट जाएं, जो आप मैप देखें, that includes India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, everybody in it. And it's about Hindutva domination, right? Now, India can't possibly seek to invade Pakistan and conquer it. वो ज़माने गए. But to do a regional dominance. Now, this terrorist attack happened, and we as Pakistanis, anywhere innocent people die, we should condemn. 100%. And I'm very happy in Pakistan, not just government की तो official statement है, पर हमारी media everywhere, society में, everyone condemned it. कि आपने innocent लोगों को, because वो हिंदू थे, आपने उसको उड़ा दिया. Absolutely. Our religion does not give permission. Correct. It's the highest degree of crime. So we need to be very, very vocal about it. Not कि वो हमारे बंदों को मारे तो हमने, no. So a terrorist attack is a terrorist attack and it should be condemned as such, right? Now, in my judgment, Modi government wanted to create this regional dominance. Okay? उनका ये ज़बरदस्त मौका है. Never it has ever happened कि एक terrorist attack होता है and to say Pakistan ने किया. Come on, I mean LOC पे there is fencing. There are 300,000 to 400,000 troops over there. The ratio is 10 Kashmiris ke 1 troop is there. It's one of the most concentrated militarized region in the world. वहाँ आप कह रहे पाकिस्तान से कोई हेलीकॉप्टर से गया होगा, वो या ड्रोन से तो टेररिस्ट नहीं जाएंगे ना. वहाँ इंडिजिनस, लाइक आई सेड अर्लियर ऑन, you will always have manifestation of violence whenever there is injustice or people's rights are not being met. So you will always have that. Now, वो कि some terrorists happen and immediately पाकिस्तान को हमने अटैक करना है, it's bizarre logic, right? But उन्होंने कहा ये मौका मिला है, let's go and dominate them. Now, उनके Rafales आए हुए थे and they were boasting about the Rafales. And I was looking at the media, they were already saying that. In the beginning, हमारे Rafale, हम उसको ये करेंगे, right? And they'd already started. So this was a opportunity to Modi to dominate the region and show देखो हमने पाकिस्तान से ये किया, right? Little they knew hubris में है ना, आपको फिरौनियत जब आप में आती है, आपकी miscalculations होती है. And as they say, the first casualty of war is your war plans. And your strategy, right? So hubris में कि these minions, ये क्या जानते हैं?
What do you think they miscalculated?
I think they clearly देखिए, this was a limited conflict. India might be 11 times our size and have $600 billion, but if it's a protracted war, that's where economics and everything comes in. In a small limited conflict, it's all technology and skill sets. These are the two things. Now, Pakistan has been at the tops over there. Now, for China, जो आप कह रहे हैं ना, win हुई है, China has dominated all technological platforms around the world without exception. You look at EVs, you look at photovoltaic cell, chip में dominance आ गई है, phones में इनकी dominance आ गई है, across the board. AI में 50% of all AI engineers in the world are sitting in China. This is after अमेरिका ने एड़ी चोटी का जोर लगा दिया था कि इनको बिल्कुल ही खुदी लाइन लगाओ. Yet पहले they used to boast कि 2-3 साल हम चाइना से आगे हैं in AI. Literally they know now they're only few months behind. China is going at a very
transactionally China has more.
So defense industry was the monopoly of the Western governments. See, the Europeans and the Americans, it's a over $1 trillion industry. A बहुत बड़ी lucrative. Forget about the moral issues, but from an economic point of view, it's a $1 trillion.
पूरी दुनिया की जो beauty industry है, beauty is only $500 billion.
Correct. Defense, actually, total spending is close to $2 trillion.
That's 4 times the beauty industry.
Sure.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And if you see, I mean, food and जो education issues है, 2-4% ये जो हम एक खून खराबे में जो हम spend करते हैं, आप उसमें डालते हैं आपके poverty, hunger, आपके issues सारे के सारे. So that shows as a human species how warped we are and how unevolved we are. We think हम बड़े होशियार हैं, हम बड़े evolved है, democracy है, liberalism चल रहा है. Absolute nonsense. We are as savage as we were before. एक्सेप्ट हमने वो ब्यूटी इंडस्ट्री आ गई है $500 billion की, उस पर लिपस्टिक ला ली हमने लगा दी है. When the chips are down, we are as savage and we've developed we can articulate very well, we can justify very well, but keeping it purely raw, 2 trillion. So China 40 साल से उन्होंने कोई कॉन्फ्लिक्ट नहीं किया है, राइट. वी वर दी टेस्टिंग ग्राउंड्स फॉर टू प्रूव. एक थियरी होता है, एक होता है. सो वी वर द प्रूविंग ग्राउंड्स फॉर चाइना टू prove its technology and show its superiority. At least, if not superiority, show that we are there in the market, and China could be very affordable. Now, for China, it's not just economics, it's a soft power as well. So if there will be dependency, and Pakistan is the only country in the world where there is Chinese technology. Think about it, right? And we are going hand in hand. And now it'll have a much more value proposition for the Chinese to have a two-way partnership. It's not the Chinese just supporting and we only on the receiving end. Now it becomes a very vibrant partnership. So, however, loath I am to the defense industry and killing people, but purely from an economic point of view, Pakistan will end up benefiting and China will end up benefiting. की ये है, देखिए, विन जो आप डिफाइन करते हैं ना, इंडिया का ऑब्जेक्टिव था टू हैव रीजनल डोमिनेंस, रीजनल हेजेमनी, दैट दे फेल्ड. And because of that, I say India lost. Not because Rafale गिरे नहीं गिरे, हमारे 1-2 planes अगर गिर जाते, that does not define win or loss. What defines, आपका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या था भाई? आपका था तो हम उसका जाके घुस के मारेंगे, सबक सिखाएंगे, you minions, we will do this, we are that, right? And उन्होंने तो डॉक्ट्रिन बनाया था कि we have 2 adversaries, China and Pakistan. Now we have the capability of taking 2 enemies simultaneously. इतनी hubris आ गई थी, आप सोचें. So they wanted the hegemony. So in that they failed. Because of that, I say they lost. Pakistan won not because हमने उसके रफाइल गिराए. Pakistan had to demonstrate a credible deterrence. Pakistan cannot take on India in war. That is, हम जितना भी हम chest thumping करें, we can't. It's a 11 times bigger economy aside.
So in a protracted war,
we can't.
Right? We can't.
But we need to show credible deterrence. That if you do any adventurism, it will not be a walk in the park. It will be a huge cost for you to pay. So next time, please be careful. Okay. So therefore, I defined that कि Pakistan won. Another thing is कि Indus Water Treaty. ये भी again जो rule based economy thi, that is crumbling now, right? So that is again symbolically Modi saying हम उसको suspend कर रहे हैं. Hell with agreements, hell with this thing. It's about to again institutions globally rule based जो enforce करती थी, be the International Criminal Court, the United Nations, all of them have been undermined primarily because of US support for Israel, right? And because of now, since those institutions are crumbling, so Modi can say, hell with it, World Bank, we suspend.
So then technically Pakistan can do the same?
If we want to any agreement, so any other country
can do that. So then why not do the same with IMF and debt repayments and all of that stuff?
No, you don't. Let's not. I mean, look, we are Pakistan, we are integrated as a financial system. We need to have a credit ratings, we need to be part of it. We can't say that that is different. I'm talking about in nations. Israel थे, उन्होंने agreements ही फाड़ के फेंक दिया, लेबनान के साथ फाड़ के फेंक दिया, hell with it. ईरान की न्यूक्लियर डील थी, ट्रंप आया, उसने बोला फाड़ के फेंको. Sanctions थे, उन्होंने लिफ्ट कर दिए. ईरान went about with all the compliance, and then Trump came and said, hell with it. Climate change, right? फाड़ के फेंक दिया उन्होंने, जाओ भाड़ में जाओ, हम जो करेंगे हम करेंगे, हमारी चौधराहट है. तो ये चौधराहट का ज़माना आ गया है, राइट? क्योंकि इंस्टीट्यूशंस सो यहाँ इंडिया ने ट्राई किया था चौधराहट के, वो नहीं चली, राइट? एंड प्राइमरली बिकॉज ऑफ चाइनीज़. एंड नाउ द मैसेज इज़ वेरी क्लियर कि पाकिस्तान इज़ अ वेरी वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग फ्रॉम अ टेक्नोलॉजी, एंड वी हैव डायरेक्ट cutting edge technologies, and more are coming now. ये तो 4.5 था, 5th generation aircrafts are coming. And for India to catch up on that, it's not कि आपने एक हवाई जहाज off the shelf या shopping करके लाए. You create a whole ecosystem, just like हमारी press briefing में होता है. You create a whole digital ecosystem. The skill sets, हमारे F-16 पे 30 साल से हमारे pilots चल रहे हैं, right? So वो skill sets, those things, the whole organization culture.
Plus we've been engaged in some level of war skirmish, conflict for the last 30-40 years.
Exactly.
Our technology was the American technology. They had some
Battle
Russian
hardened. battle hardened soldiers.
So our soldiers know how to
No,
respond quickly because
yeah.
they've been engaged in
Yeah,
conflict.
and you know the जो हमने नॉर्थ वजीरिस्तान जो वहाँ जो हमने किया था, we don't really talk much about it.
But that was
Those
exactly
were
that.
very very sophisticated multi-pronged operations, world class operations that were done, and we executed down to the T. Right? We don't talk about it much, but so we are very sophisticated, very trained and very battle. हम establishment को हम जो भी तनकीद करना है कर ले, but we have to establish our forces are top class, okay, in a limit. So Pakistan का deterrence जो है वो establish हो गया, right? So from then, now going forward, I feel in the long run both sides have lost.
Why have both lost?
Because I'll tell you what has happened now. एक तो now we are in a cycle of perpetual war going forward. Because Modi has, उनका डॉक्ट्राइन है कि हम सीज फायर नहीं कर रहे हैं, हमने इसको अभी पॉज किया है. नेक्स्ट टाइम जब भी होगा तो हम तो अगेन वी विल बी गोइंग फॉर अ डायरेक्ट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट वॉर. ओके, नाउ दिस इज द डोमिनेंट डॉक्ट्रिन नाउ दैट इज गोइंग टू बी एस्टैब्लिश्ड. इंडिया पाकिस्तान की रिलेशनशिप are always in windows of opportunity. In my opinion, during Musharraf's time, we were this close to solving the Kashmir problem. Okay, during Vajpayee's time, the Samjhauta, the Lahore peace bus jo aayi thi, we were this close to.
What derailed both of them?
That is a separate. I can go on for half an hour, but the point is, windows open, windows shut. As we goes forward, the windows shut. Okay, and now a perpetual war doctrine will become the dominant rule in this thing because of Modi's declaration. कि हम वॉर, हमने पीस डील नहीं की है, हमने वॉर को हमने सिर्फ अबेंस में रखा है, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. नेक्स्ट टाइम होगा अगेन हम मारेंगे. पाकिस्तान का प्रॉब्लम ये आएगा, अगेन वी आर अ पुअर कंट्री. इंडिया इज ऑल्सो अ पुअर कंट्री. हाउएवर दे से, like we spoke about, hunger level, socio-economic indications are huge. Still बहुत बड़े problems हैं हमारे, right? तो हमारा focus will be, we have to ramp up our defense expenditure. India will also be doing that because उन्होंने कहा यार हम $80 billion हम खर्च करते, it's not good enough. फिर भी हमें मार पड़ी, हमारे जहाज़ गिर गए. We can't dominate. एक है at par, एक है आप dominance. Dominance means you need 3 times more force multiplier to dominate an adversary. Gus ke mari. You need that 3 times. For India to do that, $80 billion is not good enough because Pakistan might have a $8 or $9 billion defense expenditure, but it has a technology that is cutting edge coming directly thanks to China. So for India to overwhelm that is a very, very, very steep thing. You're looking at a lot. So India will also be diverting a lot of its resources towards defense. पाकिस्तान आउट ऑफ डिफ़ॉल्ट मजबूरी में हमें भी फोकस करना पड़ेगा. दैट इज़ वन थिंग, एंड हेंस वो द अपॉर्चुनिटी बिटवीन बटर एंड बुलेट्स. सो लेस बटर एंड मोर बुलेट्स पे हमें डाइवर्ट करना पड़ेगा. देन ऑल्सो इन्वेस्टमेंट. इफ़ आई एम एन इन्वेस्टर, पाकिस्तान में तो वैसा भी मैं इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए इश्यूज आते, वी नॉट द चॉइस ऑफ डेस्टिनेशन ऑफ चॉइस फॉर इन्वेस्टमेंट. इंडिया विल सफ़र बिकॉज इंडिया का जो डॉक्ट्रिन अब आया है, मैं अगर इन्वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ, मैं कहूँगा यार कल अगेन ये वॉर छिड़ सकती है, एयर स्पेसेस सारे बंद हो जाएंगे. डू आई रियली वांट टू इन्वेस्ट हियर? व्हाई डिडंट आई गो टू वियतनाम और सम अदर प्लेस, राइट?
But in that case,
India
India is a
will suffer. Yes, India will suffer in a this thing. People will acknowledge, don't acknowledge, I don't know, but this is my reading, and I'm very, very sure of this thing. And not to mention this hyper nationalism that is there.
But there's already a significant investment there by a lot of Western companies.
That's why.
Why would they're not going to retreat that investment. That will continue to remain.
They will not.
So they're not going to be as big a loser in that sense. Pakistan would be the bigger loser because if there is a skirmish, Pakistan, then why would I start something new in Pakistan? India में तो मैंने start किया हुआ, it's running. अब ठीक है, चल रहा है तो चल रहा है. Maybe not something.
So I would argue against that completely. I would say Pakistan का baseline बहुत low है और fresh investment, foreign investment आ रही नहीं है. Apart from China. चाइना से आएगी वो वैसा भी आएगी, irrespective of इंडिया का हमारा टाइम,
right?
ठीक है. So we will not suffer that much. Our baseline is very low. India's is quite high, and foreign direct investment you need every year to maintain that your momentum, your growth momentum, technology, all of that, you need that, right? So to maintain that, you have this huge issue of if you are in a war conflict thing, your fresh investments will not be coming. And India is not fighting against Pakistan. India's objective is China, right? So China is growing despite of everything. So the disparity between China and India is already 4-5 times. They're scared that agar it grow, then maybe it becomes 5 times, 10 times the next 30-40 years if they don't maintain that growth, right? And India has to feed 1.5 billion people. So वो poverty से अगर निकालने, if ever they have a dream of becoming a prosperous nation, they have to lift these hundreds of millions of people. You can't do that by spending on
Makes sense.
this thing. So hence, I find this to be a loss for both and societal. हमारे यहाँ ये all this jingoistic, I hope and pray कि ये नहीं हो हमारे. We've been very measured, very peace loving, very this thing. And even आप हमारे elections देख ले, हमारे election के manifesto में peace with India, People's Party, Muslim League. I dealt with an Amin ki Asha and everything. I dealt with the military myself. Okay, let me tell you categorically and first-hand example with Musharraf, President Musharraf, I had one-on-one. हमारे इधर है क्या ना कि ये मिलिट्री ये कश्मीर का इशू है अपना दुकान चमकाने के लिए कर रही है. Absolutely wrong. I've been part of track 2 and I would tell the Indian thing at very high level that here's when during Musharraf's time here's a president, an army chief who has moved away from the UN resolution and is being criticized by the political parties, in which last 60 years or 50 years, no political party had done it, he's done it. And he has done it with the consent of the co-commanders. So this is your window of opportunity to do the peace deal with Pakistan, right? So it's not, and track 2 में अमन की आशा हमने जो भी किया है, whatever track 2 मैंने किया है, I could have never done it without consent of the establishment. This is the reality. वीज़ा हम मेरी रोक देते हम मैं क्या कर सकता था. हम जो भी सिविल सोसाइटी हम समझते हैं हम बहुत हीरो है नहीं है. At the end of the day, the government, the establishment support, and it goes with India as well. We can't, civil society cannot interact without their respective. We can play as complementing our government's effort, and our government's effort was to do peace with India, categorically.
Can it be that today?
No.
For how long?
I don't know. They say never. However, the way things are, the Modi ka jo doctrine hai, that will become the dominant doctrine unless something changes dramatically. I hope it changes. I don't see it changing.
Could someone broker something? A state, another state brokering something that benefits from the two sides being...
No, that'll never happen because India has always treated this as a bilateral issue. They will never allow, even the Americans, so Trump ने जो कहा है, they have not acknowledged Trump's role at all into it, right? Anyone. कहते हैं हमारे bilateral issue हम bilateral करेंगे, no one else can do it. Plus remember, it's not just India, Pakistan. In India point of view, it's not just Pakistan. It is their own society, the Muslim population, the intolerance that is coming into their own, the hyper-nationalism, the Hindutva ideology. There are a lot of Indians, I speak to some of them, they are not at all happy with this thing. They are opposing this. Right? So I'm saying you have to look at Pakistan in that context. You can't see it in isolation. So because of that, in that context, I'd say Pakistan-India relationship.
But the thing is that, if I recall correctly, it was I think 2016 when Modi was in power. He flew into Pakistan,
Correct.
Met the Sharifs, and then flew out.
Correct.
So there is a relationship that exists
Correct.
today. And today, both of the same characters are in power on both sides. Could there not be some kind of dialogue if there is a pre-existing relationship?
I don't see that happening. Primarily because, like I said, there are window of opportunities. उस टाइम पे था अभी जो है मोदी की एक डॉक्ट्रिन बन गई है and now it's fossilized, it's entrenched. Okay, it is Hindutva mindset. Hindutva mindset में coming to Pakistan's level to talk doesn't fit into that ideology. उसने एक दुकान अपनी चमकाई हुई है
But
with
अगर
a
आप
certain
कहें कि
narrative
but अगर
that
उस
मैंने and that and let me tell you even in track 2 I mean I'm not currently at all, I've not been involved since a very long time now, but I speak to people. जब भी होता था वो एटीट्यूड में बड़ा ड्रामेटिक चेंज आ गया है कि पहले होता था इक्वालिटी पे होता था एक्सेट्रा वी वुड टॉक. नाउ इट्स लाइक वी आर अप हियर एंड यू मिनियंस, आप लोगों को आप लोगों को सबक सिखाना चाहिए. इट्स दैट काइंड ऑफ एन एटीट्यूड.
लेकिन अगर इफ देयर इज अ वे टू पोजीशन कि दैट दुकान चमकाने के का एक और तरीका भी है कि बाय एंगेजिंग इन डायलॉग हियर इज द बेनिफिट दैट यू गेट इन रनिंग योर ओन
No, no,
ट्रैक.
I'm
There's
all
got to
for
be
that.
there's got to be an angle.
It is a no-brainer. I mean,
But
war
there's got to be
does
some
not,
angle.
इसके लिए मैं कह रहा हूँ war both sides lose. Okay, of course, peace brings dividends. दुनिया में after World War II जो unprecedented जो आपकी जो economic आपकी prosperity आई है, wealth creation हुई है, it's because of peace. आपके नॉर्थ कोरियन कोरियन वॉर हुई थी, थोड़ा वियतनाम भी हुआ था, लेकिन ओवरआर्चिंग वी वर वेरी पीसफुल पीरियड में हम गए थे. ऑफ कोर्स द डिविडेंड ऑफ पीरियड, बट एक ब्रांड अब बन गया है, सर्टन आइडियोलॉजी. इट्स अबाउट एवरीथिंग ट्रिकल्स डाउन टू लोकल पॉलिटिक्स. दिस इज हाउ आई सी इट. एंड as long as India's local politics does not sync with peace with Pakistan, I don't see that happening. उनके election manifesto उठाओ कि it is about anti-Pakistan. Pakistan के election manifesto has been peace with Pakistan. So I'm saying peace India-Pakistan का I don't see it happening, not because Pakistan का नहीं है, it's because of India's side. क्या? Because the ideology, election, भाई इसका वोटर है वो कह रहे हैं इनको घुस घुस के मारेंगे and कल मोदी बोलता है यार इनके साथ पीस करना है, वो कहते हैं एक ही हो गया. Right? So you can't. If you want to, then you transition over a period, create the mindset. Right? अभी तो इट्स दैट वेपन्स ऑफ मास डिस्ट्रक्शन जो इराक का जो नहीं नैरेटिव बना गया था, न्यूक्लियर बॉम्ब्स है, वी आर थ्रेटेंड एक्सेट्रा, एंड इवेंचुअली लेड टू इन्वेजन. It's that narrative. You look at the media, it's not happening randomly. There's a narrative that is being manufactured over there about hyper-nationalism, Hindutva, anti-Pakistan, anti-minorities, changing the name of the streets from Muslims, wiping out the complete Muslim history and identity. जो identity की आप जो बात कर रहे थे, it is a multicultural identity. It's been changed to a Hindutva identity, and also victimhood identity. Israel में आप चले जाएं, वो जेनेसाइड कर रहे हैं, उन्होंने उसके ज़मीनें चोरी की हुई है. Still you talk to them, they say, oh, we are the victims. Because that is the mindset that has been manufactured in the Israeli society. Oh, Hamas, the terror, ये वे. अरे तुमने जो नकबा से उठा के आते जो टेरर किया है, उसका कुछ नहीं है. You said Hamas, 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 Hamas. Because it's that mindset. I worry about India. And like I said, I wish India to become a prosperous, vibrant society. Even when you're fighting war, because if you want to live for generations, we need to have a nice, cooperative, peace-loving area in this thing. And I would oppose if Modi type comes in Pakistan. I would oppose it till my last drop of blood, because it damages your society. Economics, defense, everything is secondary. The crux is your organization, culture in a company. The crux is your society for a country.
How would you see the playbook play out for Pakistan over the next 5 years?
I think Pakistan needs to really focus on its core issues. And its core issue is not defense. We've already demonstrated a credible defense. For India to up the game, you're looking at 5 years to 10 years. Already China is going to give us. So we don't need to focus too much on our defense. And even holidays karna, and ठीक है हमने celebration कर ली, get over it, move on. Come back to your daily thing, which is economics, development. आप अपना जो we are still in an IMF program, right? We are still on a ventilator, as they say. उसको उस पर आपने फोकस करना है. एंड विद अ लॉट ऑफ ह्यूमिलिटी, लॉट ऑफ सेंस ऑफ अगर इफ़ यू इस्लामिक रिपब्लिकन, लेट्स फॉलो द ethos of Islam, which is आप corruption कम करें, आप competency सही करें, governance सही करें, compassionate society बने, सच बोलें. So you focus on your in-house, आप उसको आप सही करें. And I fear, in conflicts hota hai, when you have an enemy outside, we all unite for the wrong reason. Right? We should not unite because India is attacking us. ठीक है, temporary आप कर ले, but we need to unite because we have a common sense of purpose, common sense of destiny, common ethical values, common Islamic ethos. These are the reasons why we should be uniting and working together. Not because अटैक हुआ, हमने उसके जहाज गिराए and we all united. उसका एक shelf life होती है and before you know we'll be back to square one. And if we continue to focus on that, जो हमारे problems है which are very severe पाकिस्तान के, it is a time bomb. You have a population that is explosion. हम अभी तक हमारे population हम control नहीं कर सके हैं. Already literacy level आप देख लें, right? Malnutrition हम देख लें, right? आप उसके ऊपर सोने पे सुहागा आप कर ले climate. Outside the two polar region, Pakistan has the highest glacial ice in the world. And with this weather changing, Pakistan is one of the most potential dangerous, most affected by climate change. तो वो तो अब आना है उसका, the ravage of that is going to come in, right? So we need to be prepared for that. Be it canal systems, dams बनाना है, resilient crops करने हैं, better farm practices करनी है, crop diversity करना है, cities में better water management करना है, right? I don't see that happening on war footing. And we can't look at Islamabad. As a society, we need to do it ourselves. And I think we need to forget about India and war ho gaya, khatam, we have a credible deterrence. I don't see, in my judgment, India attacking us anytime soon. We have a credible, let's focus on, आपकी society सही होगी, आपकी economy सही होगी, आपकी economy से ऊपर defense automatically सही हो जाएगा, आपकी credibility दुनिया में आपकी बढ़ेगी. So, but the key is getting our foundations right.
And how do you envision that playing out in the top leadership that are currently perhaps celebrating a victory for a period that is longer than needed? Because they're in that state of hubris कि देखें जी हमने इंडिया को शिकस्त दे दी.
So I think चले celebration आप कर ले, it brings people together, लोगों के थोड़े दिल खुश हो जाएंगे. But we need to move on. The sooner we do, the better for us, right? And the danger is if we keep on lingering in that mindset, then वही मोदी जो है, they are in that mindset of hubris. We will, वो कहते हैं ना, your enemy cannot be your teachers, right? We need to chart our own course, and if we don't do that, it's a fatal error we will be committing. Okay, and we need to focus on our fundamentals. And it should, Rumi ki quote thi, and I always quote all the time, कि first I was clever and I wanted to change the world. Now I'm wise and I'm changing myself. तो पहले हम अपने को as an individual, as a society, as a nation, हम अपना घर सही करें, दूसरे के घर सही हो जाएंगे.
तो ये जो टर्म है इस इलेक्टेड गवर्नमेंट की टर्म तकरीबन 3.5 साल और है, राइट?
जी.
For the next 3 years, what should they focus on?
Again,
if they had to fix one thing, what should they focus on? Just one thing.
Pakistan is going through a poly crisis on multiple fronts.
So you can't do
there is
one.
no silver bullet solution, period. Okay, you need to fix your health, you need to fix your education, you need to fix your governance, you need to fix your agriculture, you need to fix your water management, you need to fix your corruption indexes, right? And you need to fix your institutional base. Nations are foundations is on institutions of excellence. Okay, our establishment, हम तनकीद कर सकते हैं, but it is a very solid institution, right? And but too much of a good thing is also bad. As they say, grass never grows under a banyan tree. It's a very dominant institution of the country. If anything, the establishment should play that role of strengthening the other institutions, the other pillars of the state, and bring it at par with check and balance. So, कहते हैं ना, you have to sometimes lose a battle to win the war. So, by having stronger institutions, you're winning the war. right? Oh, and they say, the path to hell is laced with good intentions, right? So we have to look at that institution of excellence. आपने उसको बढ़ाना है. We need to have that check and balance. That soul messiah आएगा from the sky to solve, one leader आएगा, be it Imran Khan or now it's army or someone else or some other politician. No, it doesn't happen this way. Read history. There's never a one person. You need to institutions. It's individuals and collective society that build institutions, and then institutions make individuals irrelevant. And that is how nations prosper, they become vibrant. That is how institutions are.
But everything is individual led. Even if you look at the change in Saudi Arabia, it is individual led. If you look at Singapore, it was individual led.
No. I would argue individual championed it. Lee Kuan Yew championed it. But वही मैं कह रहा है, individuals help in building institutions. Lee Kuan Yew did not, उसने अपना कोई घर वर नहीं बनाया, या उसने इंस्टीट्यूशन बनाई, उसने सिस्टम बनाया, उसने गवर्नेंस से ठीक किया. तो when he died, सिंगापुर कोलैप्स नहीं हो गया, ओ जी साड़ा बंदा था चले गया, ओ जी अस्सी बढ़ गए. नो, he created institutions. It's a very vibrant institution, right? He might have made it in its own image, in a certain way, which might not, the Americans hated that कि आप chewing-gum आपने बैन कर दी थी, but he said नहीं मुझे डंडे मारने हैं, right? So he did that, and I wanted a very strict society. He did that. So individuals do give institutions, but then institutions become larger than individuals. And that, the day I see all of that process happening, I'll then see Pakistan becoming, inshallah, a prosperous nation. हमने 15 साल में, after 1947, 15 साल में, we were on our way to become an Asian tiger. We were, Taiwan, सबको, थाईलैंड, कोरिया, सबको हम पीछे छोड़ते थे. वर्ल्ड बैंक यूज्ड टू कोट अस के देखिए ये ज़बरदस्त है, हमारे अंदर जरासीम है, और जितने हमारे प्रॉब्लम्स है, बी इट डेट, IMF, ये वी आर अ नेशन ऑफ 250 मिलियन पीपल. सो इफ हम अपना घर सही कर दे, सो दिस प्रॉब्लम्स can, if you contextualize it, they can become, today बहुत बड़े लग रहे हैं, they can actually become manageable. But if you do not, like I said, the trends, the climate change, the population growth explosions that are happening, the education, the health indexes, diabetes, Pakistan is the highest in the world, right? So if you don't, and then infrastructure, all of this, if you do not do that right, then we are it's a double-edged sword. I don't know, we can go this way or that way, and to be honest, the jury's out. Therefore, I'm worried and I'm hopeful as well that there is a possibility we can actually turn it around.
And if you were to pick a champion for us at this point in time, who would that champion be? Like you had a champion for Singapore, you have had a champion for Dubai, you've had a champion, let's say, for Saudi and the transition that's taking place. Who is that champion today for this country?
The champion is all of us, each one of us. The day we think we have the power to change in our own limited capacity and champion it, that will be the day Pakistan will change. The day you think that some आसमान से कोई गिरेगा, इस्लामाबाद में आके बैठेगा और हमारी तकदीर चेंज करेगा, वाइल हम ड्राइंग रूम में हम सिगार पी रहे हैं, गोल्फ खेल रहे हैं, हम तनकीद कर रहे हैं, एंड इन आर लिमिटेड में हम थोड़े पैसे दे रहे हैं, एंड वी थिंक वो करेंगे, दैट्स लेजी इंटेलेक्चुअली, वी बीइंग लेजी एंड डिसइंजीनियस. दैट वो फॉर्मूला चलता ही नहीं है.
But did that
तो
formula
वो
work?
वन चैम्पियन का वो ज़माना गया. कोई चैम्पियन एक नहीं आएगा, हम सब चैम्पियन बने, हम अपनी तकदीर हम चेंज कर सकते हैं.
Thank you, Amin. I think this was a very good message to end on. I appreciate the feedback. I think कि इस पूरे सिचुएशन को एक प्रैक्टिकल लेंस से अगर देखें एंड उसमें से हम अपने की टेकअवेज लेके अप्लाई करें, आई थिंक देयर इज़ समथिंग टू बी लर्नड हियर एंड समथिंग टू बी अप्लाइड दैट कैन हेल्प अस prosper over the next 15 years, help both sides prosper, because when both sides prosper, actually the winner is everyone. The winner is the common man, and that's what we often forget, कि हम जीत गए, वो नहीं जीते, वो जीत गए, हम नहीं जीत गए. At the end of the day, society, the people who are completely similar, we are the same. this society has to win. And I think that if we all focus on our circle of influence, चाहे हमारे दायरे में 10 लोग हों, 100 लोग हों, 1000 लोग हों, and we bring change in that circle, you're absolutely right. I think that's the only way we can bring change. Thank you for the
Thank you.
time. Thank you for tuning into DigiTales. Like, subscribe, comment करें, and we will get you on the next episode. Bye-bye.